Sweet. Welcome back. And welcome to night 4. After tonight, we'll officially be halfway done. Even crazier, if you remember our last night, night 8, is really just the final. So after tonight, we'll pretty much only have 3 more classes. I'd say tonight is kind of the last major learning night. And then it's going to be a lot of refinement next week and prepping for the final project. So tonight we're going to be covering calculated fields and level of detail calculations. So it's funny, we actually had 2 people join early with some homework questions, and the answer to both of those questions were calculated fields. So we've covered some data viz stuff, obviously. We've covered some basic data engineering stuff, bringing in the data. On Monday, we started covering kind of some of the EDA opportunities that we have. And so you'll remember night 1, I told you the cool thing about keeping this class first, data viz, is you're going to get kind of a full spectrum and end-to-end of the data science ecosystem. Tonight's going to be really focused on kind of some of the coding and advanced functionality in Tableau. It's pretty, I'm not going to say it's pretty basic. I'm going to caveat tonight. It feels like each night I have a different caveat. Tonight will probably be the most complicated night that we have from a learning perspective, but it's also, to give a little take, it will probably be one of the shortest nights that we have. So we're going to cover everything. The homework assignment is super simple. It shouldn't take anyone longer than 5 minutes. So it's going to be, I'm going to ask that you guys are really locked in. It'll be pretty intense for the first couple hours, and then we'll get out of here a little early. And then next week, we'll kind of be bringing everything all together. So it's cool. You can do some really, really powerful stuff with calculated fields and level of detail calculations. The Tableau Superstore data, like I've referenced numerous times, is built to be a perfect data set for practicing. So there's not a whole lot of issues with it. That is not the case in the real world. In the real world, data is messy and missing and wrong sometimes. And you can't always, if it's coming like from your product or from your sales team or something like that, you can't always go and have them fix it instantly. A lot of times you implement a change and it's going to take months or weeks or years for all of that data to backfill and start collecting good data. Sometimes you need to start from scratch. So you need to be able to edit, or there's actually a fun word that I like to use called munge. Let me actually look up the definition for munge to make sure I'm using that right. Munge definition. Yeah, literally called manipulate data is the definition of munge. So you need to be able to work with what you have. And a lot of you guys are finding really cool data sets that have kind of messy data, which is actually exactly why I try to get you guys for the homework to go out and find a different data set so you can get used to the real world applications of what data typically looks like. So tonight we're going to learn through calculated fields and level of detail calculations how to munge our data to get it into a format that makes it really, really clean and nice to work with. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to start with some storytelling. One quick thing that I'm going to show. I appreciate everyone sending me their homework. One thing that I'm going to ask a couple people to do is tonight I have pulled up Celeste, Howell, Razu, and Mary to kind of do the show and tell. When you guys publish, make sure, and I think, let me check. I think Razu and Howell, you guys both need to do this still. When you publish, if you click this little button here, by default, it has show sheets checked off. And so only the view you were on when you published it is showing. You see, I can't see any of my other tabs. So if you guys could go in and click this little gear icon and click show sheets, then it should refresh and you should have a little tab across the top of all the different reports that you built. Sweet, but we will start with Celeste, if you don't mind. I'll pull yours over and just quick kind of overview of what the data is, where you found it, and kind of what you're showing on here. Maybe. Do you got me, Celeste? Okay, well, we'll come back to you. I'm not able to hear you. Hopefully you can hear me okay. But let's bring Howell over.
I'm here.
Oh, there we go.
I'm here.
Gotcha. Sorry, I couldn't hear you there for a second.
Okay. I'm having trouble seeing you. Like there's a screen and then you're like just one of the little squares on the top rather than the whole screen, and the whole screen is just black. There we go.
Okay, maybe let me. Got it?
I see you now. I see you now. Yeah. Okay. So you want me to walk through this?
Yep, just kind of what the data is, where you found it, and kind of what you're showing here.
Okay, so this is just sales, number of sales by region, and it's just the 4 regions, and it's just the number of sales in each region.
There you go. I like how you edited the font for the title. That was something that we learned about last week.
Yes.
And I know you messaged me right away.
I didn't know how to get rid of the lines in the back.
Yeah, those dang lines. But I appreciate that you caught that right away and messaged me. I thought that was funny. Okay, cool. Thanks, Celeste. Howell, over to you if you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, did you pull it up? The screen is frozen. I don't see anything.
Oh, okay, let me refresh there. Got it?
Yeah. So my dad apparently didn't match with the heat table. So during the class and before time, and then we talked about it. But yeah, I don't know what I did. It was confusing. It didn't look right, but I still posted it. But now I know how to do it, so I'll just go back and get another data and fix it. But yeah, basically it's talking about athlete salary plus endorsement and how much they get paid as salary, but how much they get paid through endorsements. But yeah, this doesn't look right, so yeah.
Yeah, super interesting data set, and I appreciate you coming early to walk through those questions. Essentially, what was happening was in Howell's data set, this field that showed the total amount of earnings by these different athletes was written as a text field. So you can see how it has the dollar sign and the millions in there. That's not like the pretty formatting that we applied. That's actually how the data was stored. So Tableau was reading that as a text field, not a number. And so what we had to do, which is a really good segue into what we're going to cover tonight, is use a calculated field to strip away that dollar sign and strip away that letter M so that it was just the number. And then we could actually apply that onto the size and color of our different squares in our heat map. So you can see how the total salary correlated with the total amount of earnings from, I think it was 2014 in the data set. So I wanted to show this, even though, again, you weren't able to make it exactly the same way based on the data you had, because it shows a really, really solid use case of the data that we have sometimes not being perfect and us having to munge it and clean it up a little bit in order to produce the sort of chart that we want. So appreciate you walking us through that.
Thank you.
All right, Razu, I'm going to bring yours over next.
So I just sent the text data set, but I do not see the settings icon on my Tableau public. Where did you say I have to go
Oh,
to edit it?
It should be in, if you go to like your profile and
Just a second.
click on the, your homework link,
Uh-huh.
it should be this little settings icon.
I do not have that.
Are you logged in? Like if you click in the little top right, does it say my profile settings, sign out?
Grandma said she gave me $15.
No, Mary sent her.
Do we have to do that every time?
Why you
Yeah. Log in. No, it should. Hey, it should keep down for a while. Yeah.
I got it.
Just a second, okay.
While you're doing that, though, we can pop over to Mary, if you don't mind. I know you have a few different ones published. I was hoping you could just walk us through
Sure.
your dual axis here, because I think this is a really good example of both when to use one of these and visually it's very appealing as well.
Yeah, actually, see that.
That's fine. Oh yeah, I need to hit the lights, don't I?
All right. Okay, so I've got a data set from the Federal Aviation Administration on wildlife strikes of aircraft. And it's broken out in a number of different ways. The strikes happening during different phases of the flight, or the strikes happening at different times of day. So in this particular graph, I'm looking at the phases of the flight are the bigger sections. So during approach, during climb, departure, and I filtered that down because there's a lot of phases of flight that have very few strikes. So I just kind of got rid of those. And then across the bottom is what time of day the strikes are happening. And you can get all kinds of statistics about them. In this case, we're looking at, in the bars, how long the aircraft was out of service, how many hours the aircraft was out of service as a result of wildlife strikes at that time of day or in that phase of flight on average. So like on approach, the wildlife strikes that happen during the time frame of dusk on approach, on average, a plane is going to be out of service for almost 150 hours. And then the lines overlaid on top of that show how much the repairs cost on average for those. Actually, that might not be average. Yeah, no, that is average. So on average, the strikes that are happening at dusk on approach do $10,000 worth of damage and take the aircraft out of service for 150 hours.
So the height of the bar is the average time that it's out of service, and the line is the average cost of the repairs. What jumped out to me within 2 seconds of looking at this chart is this stark difference between climbs at night and the average cost to repair, and then day descents and the average cost of the repair. So that's the nice thing about these dual axis is you're able to see like where the big variances are. And I know nothing about aviation, so but
it's been an interesting data set.
But apparently, yeah, something happens while you're climbing. I guess that makes sense. You're in the air as opposed to on the ground. It's probably a more serious issue. It's going to take a lot more dollars to fix it. And same thing with descent. Apparently this, if it happens, maybe they probably have to pull the plane in as soon as it lands. So it takes a little longer, even though it may be a little cheaper fix. Again, I'm speculating and coming up with assumptions, but it's a really good use case of when to use a dual axis chart to show those different variances. The other thing that Mary and I were working through before class from a question perspective that, again, we'll cover a way to do it tonight, is she had a pie chart that had, I don't know, a dozen or so different little sections, but the main 4, took up 98% of the pie chart, and then the other 8 or so were just tiny little sliver lines. So we actually created a new group called Other to group those all into. And Mary, the way that we're going to learn how to do it in class is actually different than the quick and easy way I showed you. But using calculated fields and editing or munging our data, we can actually adjust what that data looks like in order to show something a little bit nicer like this. So
in this case, all those other categories just wasn't meaningful, right? It was such a small amount of the totals, right?
yeah.
So there was no reason to have those broken out. So.
Sweet. Thanks, Mary. And then Rizu, even if you just want to talk us through just the table that you have published here, that's fine.
Yeah, the data is taken from Tableau Public, and this is just the text table, and it just shows the profit and worldwide gross. The lower limit is 21, that's the orange. A gold, sorry, and the higher one is on the orange side, and you can see that the numbers, Warren Bros, the last one is on the higher end for the worldwide gross, whereas the lower one is 21, that's on golden. That's it from this table.
Yeah, I love this data set. Where'd you find this?
Tableau Public.
Perfect. Yeah, I feel like with a couple different measures there and some different types of studios, I've had some students work with this one in the past, and it's a pretty good data set with a lot of different options to build on top of. So I wanted to include that for the class to highlight just another option that's out there if they're still looking for something to work on with the homework. Cool. All right. Thank you guys very much. I will close out this. Gosh, that glare is brutal. One second. There we go. Gosh, it's pretty cozy in here. If you guys fall asleep, I won't blame you. All right. So, like I said, calculated fields and level of detail calculations. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of calculated fields. Tonight, we're just going to cover kind of 3 main ones: basic arithmetic, so adding things together, subtracting things, dividing, multiplying, so on and so forth. If statements, which are super, super powerful logic statements, is also going to segue really, really nicely into if you're taking SQL next. There are the concept of case statements, which are super similar to if statements. If you guys are taking Python in the future, the syntax for the way you type stuff in Tableau is identical to the way you type stuff in Python. So it'll be a really, really good kind of preview of some of the more advanced stuff that you'll learn further down the track. And then date diffs are just a good example of kind of the fun functionality that Tableau provides. We'll actually use it for our order date and their ship date. If you'll remember, on Monday, I showed you the Gantt chart and having to calculate the difference between those 2 dates. That's actually what we'll do tonight. And then level of detail calcs are essentially just calculated fields on steroids. They are probably the most powerful thing you can do in Tableau. They're also the most complicated. So we're just going to cover a couple tonight to show you what that functionality looks like without getting super in the weeds, so at least you're aware it exists. Both of these things I use literally, I could say pretty confidently in 100% of the Tableau workbooks I build at work. Data is never perfect. You always have to clean it up a little bit. And just these kind of 5 basic things: arithmetic, if statements, date diffs, fixed and lookups, level of detail calcs, are kind of the heavy hitters. So like I said, this is the last time I'll say it. It will be a pretty heavy night mentally to go through these different things, but we should go relatively quickly, and the homework's really easy. So stick with me and we'll make it through the other side. I kind of hit on this. We've been really heavily focused on charts and vizzes. We can only build charts with the data that we have. Sometimes it's missing in the wrong format. These things will help us fix that. And I hit this too. Tableau is a great teacher for how to be a full stack data scientist. Tonight's going to be heavily focused on kind of the data engineering coding side of things. And then next week, we'll kind of bring everything together. So I actually am not going to use the PowerPoint at all tonight. I think it will be beneficial for us to walk through with a hands-on example so you guys can see exactly how it functions. So as per usual, let's go ahead and open up Tableau Public. And this should be old news for everyone at this point, but click on Microsoft Excel, grab your Superstore data, and then drag over our orders and click into sheet 1. While you guys are all getting set up, I'm just going to go through the PowerPoint by myself real quick and make sure I have everything down that I want to cover tonight. So give me just one moment. Yeah, all good. All right, anyone need any more time or still trying to pull it up? Oh yeah, it takes just a couple moments there.
Can be home.
Oh, on the way here. That stinks. There's nothing worse than a long day at work than having to hit traffic after that. I had to go pick up my car
Slow?
today. What was
I'm
that?
trying to close other again. Going around. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, I think we're going.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
That's okay. There we go. Okay, perfect timing. Okay, so we are going to keep things pretty simple to start. We are going to drag over our row ID onto rows. It will yell at us, but that's okay. Add them all. And then we're going to drag over our order ID also onto rows right beside it here. So far should be super simple. Just have something like this.
Did you select filter? Which one did you select?
Just row ID and order ID, and just drag those onto rows.
Yeah, but I have a window that comes up.
Oh yeah, ignore that. Tableau is just trying to tell us, hey, there's like 10,000 of these. Are you sure you want to add them all? And we're gonna say, yeah, Tableau, you're tough. You can handle it. Add them all. Okay, then we are going to take, and again, we're just getting everything set up right now. We are going to take sales and drag it on text, profit and drag it on text. And then does this work? No. And then I want these shown as a table, but I can't really remember how to do it. So we're going to click Show Me and click this little table button. I needed to drag that there. See, you can use Tableau for 8 years and you still forget how to do stuff sometimes. That's the beauty of Show Me.
Okay, so every time I select order ID into the rows, this window will pop up and I miss a step. That's
And then go ahead and drag profit onto text as well. We'll want both of them. So you leave that there. And then drag, oh yeah, you're right. That's perfect. And then go ahead and click Show Me and click that top left table there. 30. Perfect. Okay. So we've worked with profit and sales a ton up to this point, right? Sales is the total sale amount. Profit is how much we made. But a common kind of financial metric that people may want to look at would be profit margin. So of the total profit, what percent of the total sale is that made up, right? If my sale was $1 and I made a full dollar profit off that, that's 100% profit margin, right? All of that sale came back to me as profit. If I sold something for, $100 and only made $1 profit, that would only be 1% profit margin. So it's a good financial, obviously this isn't like a finance course, but like it's a good financial metric to understand how profitable certain things are. Some things are going to be have really, really high profit margins where you can pretty much sell them at cost. Some things are going to take a lot of cost to produce, so they're not going to be as profitable, even though they may sell for more. So that would be a pretty standard metric that we would want to report on if we're analyzing our sales and profits of our business. But in our data set, all we have is profit and sales and discount quantity. We don't have a profit margin metric. So we need to create one. And people that have experience with Excel, this is very, very similar to an Excel formula. If you do have experience with like SQL or Python, this is the same kind of syntax that you would do in there, but pretty straightforward, but it's a new concept for us. So hopefully everyone's getting used to the same button clicks that we've been doing, new sheet, rows, columns, filters, all that jazz. This is going to be a new kind of area for us. So we have to click this little arrow right here at the top. There'll be a little search bar, a little filter thing, the little lines, and this little drop down arrow. And then the very first option is create calculated field. We're going to do that like 100 times tonight. So everyone make sure you can find it. It is, again, this little arrow right by the search bar. Click the drop down, create calculated field. So what this does is it gives us a little text editor here. I'm going to zoom clear in so you guys can see it. That essentially allows us to write code and create new data points. So each calculated field we create is going to be a new data point. So for instance, you guys don't have to follow this. You can leave the screen open. I'm just going to show you. If I just type the number 1 in here, and I didn't rename it, it's called calculation 1, sorry. For every single row in our data set, it will create this new data point. So if I scroll down here, you can see that every single row in here has this brand new field, this brand new column, this brand new measure, something we've never had before that I titled stupidly calculation 1. And it's literally just the number 1. So that would be like the most basic concept of a calculated field you can have. But let's go ahead and do something a little fancier. So here's our calculation 1 that you guys should all have open. Let's rename this profit margin. And the calculation of profit margin is pretty straightforward. It's just going to be our profit divided by our sales. Now, this seems straightforward, but there's a couple nuances here. Anytime that we are referencing our measures, we need to make sure that they're typed exactly the same that they're typed over here. And you can tell that it's referencing it because it will make it orange and put it in brackets. So like if I were to type like sales or something like that, notice how it's in black and there's no brackets around it. But Tableau is smart. As soon as you start typing in profit, like what I did, PRO, it gives you a drop down of all your different field names. So are you typing product ID? Are you typing product name? Or are you typing profit? You can click that, or you can just arrow down to it, hit enter. Or actually, if you don't like typing at all, Tableau's drag and drop, you can actually just drag profit over here like that. But I always get 1,000. It's probably the number one question I get in this class. People will say, why isn't my calculated field working? And I'll look over and they'll have something like, a small typo like that, like profit divided by sales. And it's like, well, it's not orange. It's not in brackets. It has this little squiggly mark under it. So most times you're having an issue with a calculated field. Double check that it is in orange. If it's not in orange, start typing it. Hit enter, click on it, drag it over, do whatever you got to do. So this one, for instance, I will actually just drag profit over here and it pops up in there. So you'll know the calculation is good. There's no errors. When this little pop-up pops up down here, it says the calculation is valid. Notice if I had a typo in there, I would get a red squiggly line and it would say this calculation contains errors. If I click into that, it would say the reference to undefined field profit divided by sales. So it's saying, hey, this doesn't exist anywhere. I don't know what you're trying to reference. That's not a column that we have. So does everyone have this? Is it titled profit margin? Doesn't matter what you can call it. You could call it Charlie is awesome or whatever. But let's all try to name it the same thing just so we're on the same page. And it's literally just profit divided by sales.
Charlie, my Tableau says I have to automatically update it, and so I Googled that to automatically update it, and I'm not able to automatically update my Tableau.
Okay.
I don't know. I can just watch what you're doing and maybe like come in next time and maybe have you help me.
Yeah. Can you send me a screenshot of when you open Tableau, what it says?
Sure.
Okay. We'll take a break here in about 10, 20 minutes, and then maybe you and I can get it sorted out then.
Okay.
Okay. So if everyone has this, go ahead and click OK. And now let's go and look at our data source. Gosh, I hate the way mine's formatted. And I can show you guys what we created. So there's a brand new field. Notice that it even says calculation, so you know that this is a calculated field. It's called profit margin. And for every single row, gosh, I'm trying to show it all. It's taking the profit value for that row, 41.91, divided by the sales value for that row, 261.96, and creating 0.16. Right, this one is taking 219 divided by, this one is actually a negative profit. We lost money on this row, negative $383. So negative 40% profit margin. So in that first example I did where I just hit the number 1 and hit OK, right? That was just 1 all the way down. This is actually calculating and doing that arithmetic, profit divided by sales, for every single row. Does anyone have any questions on what we did or understanding how it works? It's weird that that was not the best one. Yep, so you got it.
I think there's an error. I'm trying to bring it up like you have it, but.
Oh yeah. Okay. So now we can use that new calculation. So let's take our profit margin, and down here where it says measure value, sum of profit, sum of sales, let's just go ahead and drag that right underneath. And we have 0 everywhere. We were just looking at the data. They weren't zeros. Does anyone know what's going on? Bingo. So I talked about this briefly last week, but the discount, just a decimal. Tableau is rounding that down. So somewhere we probably have some 1s, right? Yep, here's a 1, here's a 0, here's a -3. We want to show this as a percentage, not 0.19 or 0.003 or -0.3 or whatever. So formatting the number format is the same exact steps that we did to add in the dollar signs on Monday. So for profit margin, we hit this little arrow key. We go to default properties and number format because we're changing the way the number is formatted, one of the default properties of that field. And we're going to click on percentage and hit OK. Now we have, for this order, it was $378. We profited $110, so that was a 29% profit margin. On this order, we actually sold it for more, $502. But
Sorry,
we actually,
can you do that?
Sorry, what was that?
You said you hit profit margin and then what else?
How does you mean?
How did you go from the zeros to the numbers?
Oh, yep. So on profit margin, we have to change it to be formatted as a percentage. So we have to change the number format. So to do that, you go over to the field that you want to change, profit margin. you go to default properties, number format, and then just hit percentage over on the left here and click OK.
Thank you.
Yep. So on the second order, even though it sold for more than the first one, it must have cost us more to make. So we actually lost $88 on that. So that'd be a negative 17% profit margin. Any questions? Everyone have this so far? Okay, let's go ahead. Everything makes sense right now. Hopefully, we're gonna keep going here. Let's go ahead and create a new sheet. And now, instead of dragging on row ID and order ID, so essentially it looks just like our data set, every single row, let's go ahead and just drag over like region to our rows. And now let's drag our profit margin onto text here. Now, this is really, really important when we start creating calculated fields, creating data in our data set, for us to understand what we created. So we've dragged over sales and profit a million times. It's always made sense. Now, when we drag over the sum of our profit margin, we're getting these huge numbers in here. Let's think through why we're seeing such big numbers here. Because we wouldn't expect the profit margin for our East region is not 47,000%, right? Something's going wrong.
Is it adding up all the profits from the rows or from the region? Is it like creating a sum of everything?
Exactly. Very good, Kimberly. That's exactly what it's doing. So we created a new column, and that column exists for every single row. We created it by doing profit divided by sum, but now it's a new data point. So when we bring over just sum of profit margin by a group instead of row by row, it's adding up 16%, 30%, 47%, 11%, and grouping those by our individual regions because we've created the data set. The data set exists. It doesn't need, or the data point exists. It doesn't need to do that calculation anymore. Where really, if we wanted to do the profit margin for a region, we'd want to sum all the sales for that region, right? And all the profit for that region, and then create our calculation. All the profits divided by all the sums, not each row profit divided by each row sum, and sum up all our percentages here. So I'll show you what I mean. And this is the really cool thing about calculated fields is you can calculate stuff on the row by row level like we just did, just like you did in Excel. But you can also calculate stuff on the aggregate level or by our different dimensions. More sense once I show it. So we're going to create a new calculated field. Remember, you click this arrow up top, create calculated field, and let's call this profit margin ag. And ag is just short for aggregate, right? So we're aggregating up our profit margin instead of doing it row by row. So we can do our aggregations inside of our calculated fields as well. So what I mean by that is we can actually type in sum and hit tab and type in profit, hit enter, divided by sum profit, or sorry, sum sales, and hit enter. So remember before, you don't have to type this bottom part, I'm just showing you for reference. Before we just did profit divided by sales. And again, that was on every single row. Profit divided by sales, profit divided by sales, profit divided by sales. Now we're actually telling Tableau, sum up all the profit and divide that by the sum of all the sales. So everyone make sure your sales and your profit are in orange and have the brackets around them. Your aggregate field sum should be in blue. Again, as long as you have it typed with your parentheses, it actually doesn't matter if it's all caps or anything like that. But you'll want to make sure that you have your first parentheses right after sum and your second parentheses right after this. Again, if all systems are go, you should get this calculation is valid. And we create that. So now if we drag that bad boy onto text, it's showing as a decimal. We'll change it to a percentage in a bit here. Now it's going to sum, it's summing up all the sale or all the profit for the central region divided by all the sales for the profit region or for the central region and giving us our total central profit margin. So that would be, let's go ahead and change that to a percentage. I'll give everyone just 1 second.
Charlie, while everybody's doing that, is there a way, like once you create the profit margin calculation to look to see what your calculation is?
1 second. Sorry, what was the question?
I just answered my own question. If you just go in and edit, you can see the calculation.
Yep. Yeah. So I've done that a couple times, but I never actually talked through it. Once you create these profit margin ag, if you ever want to see them or edit them or anything, you just click the little arrow button or right click also works and just hit edit. So let's change the one we just made, profit margin ag, to a percentage. Again, we're changing the number format. That's the default property of the field. So we'll click the arrow, default properties, number format, percentage. So what's cool, and you'll notice actually Tableau recognized that our calculated field was already summed up in the field. That's why it says instead of sum profit margin, it says AGG, aggregation of the profit margin. So it picked up on that. And what's cool is this will be dynamic now. So if instead of region, if we had nothing, right, it's summing up our entire data set of profit divided by the sum of our entire data set of sales. But if I were to bring in ship mode, now it's summing up all the profit for first class divided by the sum of all the sales for first class and calculates it that way. If I were to bring in state, right, I could bring in absolutely anything, and it's going to dynamically sum and aggregate that calculated field by the dimension that we are grouping by. And that means even if we had, let's go back to our sheet 1 and let's bring in profit margin ag down below here. Even if we are grouping by just a singular row, it will still function. So in this case, these two numbers are actually always going to be exactly the same. right? Because this is just going to take for the row, profit divided by sales. This is going to sum up everything for the row. But again, that's just one thing now, profit divided by sales. And these are going to be exactly the same. So it's really important to understand when you create these things that you are creating a new data point in your data set. And if you want to group them or want them to be dynamic, you want to make sure that you're actually doing that in your calculated field. Okay. Every time I teach this class, this is kind of a new concept, and it's tough because we're not building charts. You're not visualizing it. It's like mental math that you're kind of having to understand. Any questions about this? If you don't understand, now's the time to ask. And I'm telling you, I've taught this class a million times. Everyone always has questions. So anything you guys aren't understanding or want me to go back through, or the concepts?
I have a question. This is Celeste. I have a question. When you showed the second portion, it looked like a normal percentage, but here it's like 58,000%. So how does it make that change?
Yes. So I'm showing two different things here. The first one is the first calculated field we created, profit margin. That's just profit divided by sales. So that's going to be for every single row, just a singular profit divided by a singular sales. So that looks like for every single row, 16%, 30%, 47%, negative 40, 11%, 29%. So then when we are aggregating that, in this case, by this segment field, consumer, corporate, home office, it's summing, right? It says sum right here. That 16% plus the 40% plus the 25% plus the negative 10%. And it's summing all of those up into this massive number, right? Which isn't correct. The second way we did it is to do that aggregation inside our custom field. And it's saying take the sum of all the profits first, divided by the sum of all the sales, then give that percentage. So instead of summing the percentages, you're summing the inputs to get the percentage, which gives us the more accurate 11.55, 13.03, 14.03. So that was kind of the entire point of showing the two different ways there, is understanding what we create and how aggregating those can make a drastic difference. Does that make sense?
Show the first one and then the second one again so I can see the difference. What is the difference between the two? Between the first row and the second row?
Yep.
Profit margin. Okay. So that's profit over sales. Okay.
Yep. And so that's for every row.
Okay.
Profit by sales.
Okay.
The second one is saying sum all the profits. So we have the sum aggregations in there.
Okay.
Which is why we titled it ag, and also why Tableau automatically picks that up and is saying, hey, here I'm summing all the profit margins. This isn't a sum or an average or anything. This is already aggregated. So it doesn't have to do anything else. That's why it's saying AGG for aggregation at the beginning here.
Okay, move on. I'll just watch it again.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so that's part one. That's the hardest part. The next two, I think, are way more fun. So the next is going to be an if statement. So let's say that we want to highlight a specific subcategories. So let's drag subcategories onto our rows. And let's drag sales onto our columns. So we get this chart. Maybe let's make it full, the entire view. So it's not crazy, right? We probably have a dozen or so different subcategories. But say we were making a presentation about what's something kind of in the middle? Paper. Okay. We're working at Dunder Mifflin. We want to talk about paper. I want to show where paper is at in reference to everything else, but it doesn't stand out, right? It's kind of right in the middle. It's not one of these big long charts for like chairs and phones. It's not fasteners down at the beginning. If I look at this, it's going to take, people a couple seconds to find paper on here. It's the only thing I really care about. So let's say we want to change the color of paper and keep everything else the same to make it pop a little bit more. So this is actually, Mary, one of the ways that you could have changed your pie chart, like grouping things together or changing certain colors so they all blend together. There's a lot of good. We'll go through a few different use cases. But let's say specifically, I want to change the color of paper, right? If I drag what we've done up to this point is dragged our subcategory onto colors, right? That colors them all differently. Sure, I could go into color here. I could click edit colors and I could go through and make these all exactly the same except for paper. I could make, red or whatever, but that would take forever. Say we have 200 different types of subcategories. So we're going to create a new calculated field. Everyone should have subcategory on rows, sales on columns. To create a new calculated field, remember we click this arrow in the top. Create calculated field. And let's type it first, and then I'll go through and explain what we typed. So all if statements always start with if, right? Makes sense. And again, always, like just a good rule of thumb is to just use the Tableau autocomplete things. Don't worry about typing exactly. When this little box pops up, always click, or again, you can hit and you can scroll down and hit enter, or you can hit tab, right? Just play it safe. Do what Tableau tells you to do. You can type it exactly and it'll work. But again, I always have people run into issues with typing things correctly. So type in if, hit enter here, or click on it. We're going to say if our subcategory, again, subcategory pops up, hit enter, equals, we want to find paper, right? So we're going to type in quotes, paper. Then, again, autocomplete for you, hit enter. And again, we're going to type this and I'm going to go back through and explain it. So just stick with me for a second. Then, let's just do something easy like highlight. Doesn't really matter. Else, and sorry, I'm so zoomed in, I'm running out of room, so I'm going to break this up a little bit. Else, quotes, other, end. Now, you guys can keep typing. I'm going to start kind of walking through this. So essentially, I'm actually going to break it up a little different. It doesn't matter, but just for the sake of explaining. So this is going to be a logical condition. For every single row, I'm telling it if, right? All if statements always start with an if. And then this is your condition that you want to check. Does subcategory equal paper? Right? So over here, does this equal paper? No. Does this equal paper? No. No, 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 no. Yes. No, 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 no. Right? So if it equals paper, the one yes that we got on there, then this is what you're going to do if it equals paper. So since our subcategory equals paper, then return, this can be whatever we want it to be. It can be highlight, it can be ASDF, you could even type in paper, it could be 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 2 3 1 1 1 2 3. It doesn't matter. We're just telling Tableau when subcategory equals paper, return this thing. So since we're wanting to highlight it a different color, I just called it highlight, but return the word highlight. Else, so that means subcategory does not equal paper, return the word other. So let's go through line by line. We'll do a couple examples. Does the subcategory accessories equal paper? No. So we won't return highlight because this is not true. So since it does not equal paper, else we'll return the word other. Then it goes to this one. Does this equal paper? No. Okay, return other. Then it gets down here. Does this subcategory equal paper? Yes. Then return highlight, else other. So does anyone need more time to copy this down? Make sure it says your calculation is valid, no squiggly red lines. Before we hit OK, let's call this paper highlight. Oh, there you go. Okay, so we're going to hit OK. And now we have a new field. Before we use it, I always like to show people what it looks like in our data set here. Right, so now we have this new calculation paper highlight. So let's go through our subcategories until we find one that's paper right here. So if we scroll over, we'll see for that row, right? For every single row now, we have either other or highlight. All of them are other, except for this row that says highlight. We can scroll down some more. Here's another paper row. So if we go back to our sheet, we now have this paper highlight. What happens is if we drag this onto color, now we only have two values. We have other for all of our subcategories that aren't equal to paper. And we have highlight for our subcategory that is paper. So again, we could have gone through and changed this 12 or however many we have. But if we had like 200, right, like no shot, we're going to go through and do all that. But now we can click in and we can make these whatever colors we want. Maybe we want other to be gray. Maybe we want highlight to be the color green. We hit OK here. Now in my presentation about paper, I can very clearly show the paper bar. Any questions on that? I will pull back up the paper highlight syntax. Yep, if you want to pull it back up, you just have to right click or click the arrow on your field and click edit. Okay. Now, let's everyone go in, let's edit it. I want to show you a couple other things you can do. So let's click the arrow key on paper highlight. Let's click edit. So we should be back into this. You can add multiple conditions to this. So this is a pretty straightforward one. If it equals paper, then highlight, everything else equals other. But let's say we want it to be if subcategory equals paper or subcategory equals tables. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it big and show everything all at once. So now our condition statement, we always start with an if. Now we have subcategory can equal paper or subcategory can equal tables. I'll keep this up if some of you are still copying it over. I'll just click apply so you guys can see what happens. Now, right, everything else continues to return other. You can see it's gray, but now paper is green and our tables is green because those subcategories equals paper or they equal tables. Then we return the highlight, else everything else goes to other. I know we're a little over our normal hour break. I want to show one more thing and then we'll take a break here. So any questions on what we have so far?
I did mine, but it's not. There's nothing changing. I don't know why.
Okay. Make sure that you have tables typed exactly as it is here with a capital T. Also, sometimes people will put like a space in here, right? Because this does not equal, if we had tables, right? This value right here does not equal that value right there because this one's capitalized. Whoops. And that one's not capitalized. So make sure, and there's no spaces or anything. Did that fix anything? If it didn't, if you just want to copy and paste what you have typed and slacked it to me, I can look at that real quick. But I want to go through one last additional thing you can do with if statements. So right now, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I can show it all. Right, this is pretty much one condition here. We start with if always, but then we're saying subcategory equals paper or subcategory equals table, then highlights, right? This is what we're checking. This is what we're going to return. So this is all kind of one thing. We're grouping everything else together in this other thing. But we can add multiple checks in here. So what I mean by that is we can do an else if, which is saying this isn't true, right? It doesn't equal paper and it doesn't equal tables. So we're not going to return highlights. But we don't just want to group it into other. We want to add another check, another conditional statement, and return something different. So we can do like else if subcategory equals, let's just do what I'm looking at here, something easy to type. Let's do phones. Then, I'm so bad at examples. Let's do, I don't know. My creativity is drained at the end of the day. Highlight 2. So now what's going to happen is it's going to check first, the first thing in here. Does it equal paper? Does it equals tables? No. So, or yes, return highlight. No. Before it would just group everything else. No other checks. No matter what it equals, it was grouping into other. Now it's going to check. Okay, so it doesn't equal paper, it doesn't equals tables. Else, if, right, another check, if equals phones, we'll return this secondary thing, highlight 2. Then, if both of these are false, it doesn't equal any of these things, it doesn't return anything for highlight, it doesn't return anything for highlight 2, then everything else gets grouped into other. So when I hit OK here, I'll pull it back up in a second. But if I hit OK here, now you can see I have 3 values. I have highlight, highlight 2, and other. So now here's our paper and our tables. So it checked if this equals paper or it equals tables, return highlight. It checked else, right? Else, it doesn't equal either one of those things. Another check, does it equals phones? Yes. Okay, return the second highlight. Everything else is going to group into other. So I'll pull that back up. Yeah. It seems like every time I go over here, you got it spot on.
I second guess
Bingo. Okay, I lied. We're gonna do one more example, just because I want. This is a pretty straightforward example where we are returning, specific. I just want to show another use case. So let's create a new sheet. This will be a quick one, I promise. Let's go subcategory onto our rows again. And this time, let's do profit here. So instead of checking our dimensions, if they equal certain things, we can also check if our rows, or our measures equal certain things. So let's do a new calculated field, arrow, create calculated field. Let's call this positive profit. So again, for if statements, we always start with if. Now we want to check, is the sum of our profit greater than or less than 0? So instead of bringing in right before we did subcategory, which is a measure or a dimension we were going to check, now we're actually going to check what our measure is. We're going to check is sum of profit. So we're going to type if sum profit and again, I can't stress this enough. Autocomplete is your best friend. So once you start typing something in, just hit enter here. If sum of profit is greater than 0, then in parentheses, positive, else, and I'm going to new lines just so I don't run out of room, but you can keep typing it all in the same line too. Else, negative, end. So always start with an if, check our condition, is sum of profit greater than 0? If it is, return positive, else return negative. Right, we don't need an else if here because if it's greater than 0, if it's not greater than 0, then obviously it's less than 0. But maybe if we wanted to create a range, like if it's greater than 100, it's mega positive. If it's between negative 100 and 100, it's kind of a gray. If it's less than negative 100, it's red. We would add in an else if, and we could check those different things. But for the sake of an easy example, let's just keep it if sum of profit equals or is greater than 0, then positive, else negative. Now we can drag that over to color, and you can see all of our positive ones are orange, our negative ones are blue. We probably want to edit these colors to make the positive ones like a green and our negative ones like a red. Good and bad. But what's nice about this, whereas before the previous example, right, we were hard coding, do these equal paper, do these equals phones, do these equals tables. That would only work, right, if we had those specific subcategories on here. For this one, I could get rid of subcategory and I could bring in like just category, right? All of these are positive. I could get
Can
rid
you
of
show the calculated field again?
Yep, I'll pull that up in one more second. I could bring in product name here. It's going to yell at me, add them all, right? And now for each individual product, it's going to show red and green. I could get rid of that, right? So now it's essentially dynamic where no matter what, let's see if our shipping modes are all profitable. Yep, they are. I'll pull back up subcategory. So it's always going to check the sum of profit no matter what we're grouping by or what our dimension is, and comparing us that. So we can write calculated fields for dimensions, and we can write calculated fields for measures. So if I pull this back up, it will look like this.
Where does the color come into play there?
So there's in and of itself, there's no color, right?
Okay.
If we looked at our data source,
Okay.
all this is going to do, where's my mouse? Right? Just like before, for every single row, right? Here's our paper highlight that we made, highlight two, other. Here's our positive profit, positive, negative, negative. But now that I have these values, if I drag this new field, positive profit, onto color.
Oh, okay.
Now I can make those colors whatever I want. But what we're returning doesn't actually matter at all, right? This could be, instead of positive, this could be, which is why I was struggling to come up with an example, because they don't actually matter, right? We're just saying that this, if it's positive, it's a value. If it's negative, it's a value. And then we could set those values to be whatever color that we wanted it to be. Yep. Any last questions on if statements. Cool. Let's take a 10-minute break. It's 7:27 right now. Let's be back 7:37, and we will go through the rest. So 10-minute break, be back 7:37. My eyes are starting to hurt, sir. It's green in the dark. Sweet. So now all I have to do is just drag positive profit color. And get rid of some sales. Bingo. Now, if you wanted to change those to red and green, you just click color. Yep. Positive. Green. Red. And voila. Yeah. So Mary just timed the loop all the way back. What, for your specific use case with the bar or pie chart, you did it? If it equals this,
Yeah.
or this, then return just
I did
that.
that for practice. while I
Yeah.
was there.
Else return other.
Yeah.
Because you can also return, right? I'm not sure how you did it, but like for the paper highlight, you don't have to return a hard-coded value, right? You could return just subcategory, right? So yours would be if it equals ascend or descent or whatever, then just return those things, else return other. Okay.
I was organized this evening because that's such a fun day. Don't worry, it happens. And then I thought I can get an energy drink and have it hold me, and it didn't.
Yeah, I did it if, and then I used the value. I had to return the value that was the actual value.
Yep.
Because I wanted to use it as a label on my
Yep.
pie chart too.
Exactly.
So
Bingo.
I just did this, and I just did the where I wanted, and then else if other.
Yep.
Or else other, and then ended. Sure enough.
Bingo, bango. Yeah.
Exactly the way I want.
Yeah, and there's always it's always a trade-off between when to use groups and when to write an if statement. And essentially it just boils down to which is going to be quicker. So like if you have hundreds of values, like going through and grouping those all may actually take longer, but like you just had a few. So like it's easy to be like these are all the same. I'll toss everything in there, but it may actually be quicker to type 4 things than to go and try to find them. I don't know. But essentially it's going to end up producing the same result.
Yeah. Could you use is member of and then list each value in the string?
Maybe. I don't know for sure. So a nice thing about Tableau, and we're going to get into some different functions next, but if you hit this little arrow over to the right, it'll show you all the different functions that you can use. So I'm not
And
sure.
it has is member of because I started.
Oh, there you
with
go.
that, but then I wasn't sure the syntax of it.
Oh, perfect. Oh, this is for like user permissions actually.
Mhm.
So
Gotcha.
this, like in Tableau server, for instance, is ours, we have a folder that's just like leadership reports, like all of our financials. So we have a group. So I think you can make a filter here that says if it's a member of this group, show this
Like
value.
Active Directory.
Yeah,
For all
exactly.
purposes.
Yep, exactly what it is.
See, you learn something new every day.
But skipping ahead a little bit, the homework assignment for tonight is essentially just to go through these and find something that we haven't covered in class. And because it gives you examples and just like figuring out, because there's so many useful things in here. The homework is essentially just to find one and use one. So you already found one, so you're good to go.
Yeah, they'll be better when it's on books.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, be hot. No question, that's true.
All right. Let's go ahead and keep going. We have 3 more types of calculated fields that we're going to walk through. I think we should be able to get them done in the next half an hour to an hour. And then we should wrap up. So I do want to press it or kind of call out before we get going is like these next 2 are like basic arithmetic and if statements, like I said, are things that you're going to use all the time. These next 2 or next 3 or more functionality, but it gives a really good overview of what sort of things you can do in Tableau, and also gives a good overview and some additional stuff you'll learn how to do in SQL and Python. So I do want to make sure we at least cover it. So the first one is going to be a DATEDIFF function. So let's say, for instance, we want to look at our shipping modes, right? If we drag those up to rows. I'm sorry, let me get rid of my banner off StreamYard. Okay. So we've looked at these. We've at least been aware these exist for the last 3 nights. We have first class shipping, same day shipping, second class shipping, and standard class. Let's say we want to understand what our average days to ship for these different shipping modes are. So we have the date that it was ordered, right? We have our order date over here. And we have our shipping date over here. So we know when it was ordered and we know where it was shipped. Let's say what we want to understand, though, is what's the difference between those 2 dates. And on average, our same day shipping dates are actually 1 day. How much faster is first class than second class? How much faster is standard class than those other ones? So what we need to do is we need to calculate the number of days between our order date and our shipping date. So those 2 fields already exist in our data. They're 2 columns. We need to create a new column that's the number of the days between. So to do that, we can do a calculated field. And this is actually going to be a really good preview of what your homework assignment is. So again, click that little arrow at the top, click create calculated field. Some of you guys may already have this open. If you have this little gray box over to the side. If not, and you just have the white box, you just click this little arrow, you get the gray box. Here is every single function that Tableau provides out of the box for you guys to use. So for instance, we've already looked at if, right? And when you click on these different functions, it gives you a little overview of how it should be typed, right? If our expression, our article expression, then what we want to return, else if our second expression, then so on and so forth, dot, 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 else what we want to return, then end. So it gives you the syntax. And syntax, if you aren't familiar, just means the way it should be typed. And it also gives you a little overview. Test a series of expressions returning the then value for the first true of the expression. Example, we actually just did this. If profit is greater than 0, then profitable, else if profit equals 0, then break even, else loss. And it's funny, I've told you this time and time again, like they're using sample stored or superstore data for this. Tableau loves superstore data, so it does a good job of using these for examples. Right, we also already used or, right? Performs a logical disjunction of 2 expressions. So if expression 1 or expression 2, then, right? I think we also used, right, else if, so it talks through that, else, kind of the same, right? But there's lots of different things in here. So jump straight to the end. Your homework assignment for tonight will be to go through these. You don't have to go through all of them. Just kind of scroll until you find one that looks interesting. Read what it does, and you'll just literally just have to shoot me the function that you found, what it does, and when you think it might be useful. It could be something super simple like max, except it can't be max now because I just covered it. Sorry. Right? If I wanted to return the maximum of all the different records that I have, I could do that. Example, max of all sales. A good time that I may want to do that is show for each region, what's our biggest sale. Maybe we have a spiff for our sales team, a competition of who can make the biggest sale. I want to ignore everything else and just pull the maximum one, right? So the homework is just going to look through some of these, find one that's interesting, send it to me, and when you think you might use it. But we're going to use one specific one here. Sorry, quick tangent. Back to the number of days between our shipping date and our order date. There's this function called a DATEDIFF. So if you guys use Excel a lot, you may be familiar with this. If not, you will be after tonight. So it returns the difference between two dates, right? That's what we want. Where the start date is subtracted from the end date. The difference is expressed in units of the date part. So we need to type in DATEDIFF. We need to say what our date part is. What that means is, do we want to understand how many days are between the two dates? Do we want to understand how many weeks are between the two dates? How many months, how many years, how many hours, how many seconds? Those are all options. And then it gives a little example. DATEDIFF, we're going to look at the number of months between July 2004 and April 2004 and return that. That would return -3, right? Because 04 is 3 less than 07. But so again, anytime you guys are stuck and you're looking for something, like I think Mary and I were just talking about, like if you can do is member of, which is something that you can do, you can just search for it and find it. So maybe you want to look for, is there a way to convert something to a date? Oh, yes, there is. You can type in date and type it in, and it will convert it to a date. But we're going to use DATEDIFF. So I'll show you guys how to type it. It's date, right when we type it in, it starts giving us our options. Again, really try to get used to autocomplete. It'll make everything a lot easier. As soon as those pop up, click on DATEDIFF or scroll down, hit enter. And what's nice is it will autocomplete. It already has your parentheses in there, so you don't need to worry about that. And it will also show you what things you need to add inside your parentheses, right? So we have our date part, we have our start date, we have our end date. The start of week in brackets, if it's in brackets, that just means it's optional. We don't have to worry about that for right now. So the first thing we need to add is our date part. So for that, we're going to look at the number of days between our order date and our shipping date. So we're just going to put in quotes, day, quotes. So we're done with our date part. So when we hit comma, see in our little bolded, right now date part is bolded. As soon as we hit comma, it tells us, okay, the next thing we need to type in is our start date. So we're going to type in order date and hit enter. So now we have day. It tells us start date is next. As soon as we hit comma, it moves over. Okay, now we need our end date. So it's the last part that we're going to need. So that will be our ship date. And hit enter. So I'll get rid of this, move it to the side so everyone can see it. And again, if you use the autocomplete, everything should be correct here, no syntax errors. But DATEDIFF should be in blue. That's how you know it's right. You should have your parentheses here. Day should be in lowercase and in quotes. You should have a comma after that. Order date should be in orange. Another comma. Shipping date should be in orange. So we're going to call this like days to ship. And hit OK. Now, before we even bring it into our chart here, I always think it's good, again, just to show the data. I think it makes more sense to view it in a table as opposed to immediately dragging over and visualizing it. Right, so we have our new column now, days to ship. And let's just check a couple of these. So the very first one was ordered November 8th and shipped November 11th. And our DATEDIFF function gave us 3 days between there. Like this 7 one was ordered October 11th, shipped October 18th. So 7 days between. So that makes sense. So if we go back to our sheet, we have our ship mode. We're going to start, right? Here's our new measure, days to ship. If we drag that up to columns, now, right now, this is showing as the total sum, right? We want to show the average days to ship. We actually haven't done this up to this point in the class. I think a few of you have figured it out on your own. But you can change this sum to be an average or a max or a min or a median or whatever you want by clicking this arrow. And right here where it says measure sum, you can change that. Like I said, average, median, count, count distinct, minimum, maximum, percentile, standard deviation, variance, so on and so forth. We're just going to change that to an average. So I'll go through that again real quick. Days to ship should look like this. Date diff, day, comma, order date, comma, ship date. And then when we drag that up to columns, by default, it'll change it to a sum.
Sorry, I missed that step. The arrow for days to ship, where did you hold it from?
Did you drag it up to columns? Oh yeah, you already did it then. I was just going back through the steps there.
Oh.
Yep. But once it's up here, you can just change that to, instead of where it says measure sum, just choose average. Now, anytime you drag something up, you can leave it for now. I'm just going to show you another example. Anytime you drag something somewhere, by default, it goes sum. If you want to save yourself an extra step of going in here, because a lot of times you're going to want to show average just right away, you'll get tired of clicking into that. If you drag it with your right click instead of your left click and drop it up there, it'll immediately pop up and say, do you want sum, average, median, so on and so forth. And you can just click in here. So I think it saves you like one click. I'm not sure how much time it actually saves you, but that's something I do every time is just drag it up with my right arrow or right click instead of my left click. All right, let's also drag average days to ship to our label. So again, we can drag it over, change it from a sum to an average, and voila, we can see on average, our same day shipping is 0.44 days. So for the most part, 0 days, but there must have been a couple orders in there that we actually didn't get out. That's bringing up that average a little bit. So I bet those customers were pissed when we weren't able to fulfill their same day shipping, ordered it on December 24th. They didn't get it. First class on average goes out in about 2 days. Second class on average goes out in about 3 days. And our standard class on average goes out in about 5 days. Now, let's maybe show in our detail, right? These are just averages. Let's bring days to ship onto our detail as well. And let's change that to like instead of a sum, let's go a maximum. So now when we hover over, we can see on average, the days to ship for first class is 2 days, but the max it's taken us is 4 days, right? Let's actually zoom in. Yep, so same day, even though the average isn't quite 0, the maximum it ever takes you to ship is at least 1 day. Maybe someone ordered it at 11 p.m. or something. Second class, maximum is going to take us 5 days. Standard class maximum is going to take us 7 days. Again, you could drag whatever else. Maybe you wanted to drag that over there again and add in like our minimum. Yep. So if you drag days to ship over to your details and then just click that arrow just like we did before, instead of the sum, we're going to change the measure to a maximum or a minimum. Yep, you just have to drag days to ship onto detail again and then change it once it's over there.
Ship date?
Nope, we'll use the days to ship. field we just created.
Can you come down?
Yeah, for sure. I think you probably got it. I was just, yeah, so right here, yep, so we have sum on there. Let's choose that one, sum. So maximum. And then is should choose that. So the sum minimum. And now we look over here. And I think we changed days to ship to percent. Oh yeah, profit margin. Yeah, that third one. I was just dragging that over as an example on how to get it back over there. Yep, no problem.
I know I was missing a step or two, but I could.
No worries at all.
So my numbers. Oh, because you. I hover over.
Oh, the sum is
Oh.
there we go.
Missing those steps, I got lost.
No worries, it's a lot.
Are we staying until 9 this evening?
Nope. Yep, we're almost done.
Yeah, because I need to feed you.
Oh yeah, you're good. Okay, we're gonna go through one last thing, and then we'll be good. But remember, the homework assignment, just like we just did for our days to ship, we used a function that Tableau gave us called DATEDIFF, right? We found it over here. The homework assignment is just look through some of the other options that they have. Obviously, you don't need to click into every single one, just click into a few. Like maybe size sounds interesting. I'm going to stop using good examples so you guys can use them. But read what it does, send it to me in a use case of when you think that you might use it in the future. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Very last thing. Let's bring in category onto rows. And let's bring in subcategory onto rows. And then let's bring in our, let's just do sales onto columns. Actually, sorry, let's go sales onto text. Okay. So up until this point, everything that we have done has been dependent on what our dimensions are, right? It is summing our sales for our subcategory and our category. All of bookcases, all of furniture, summing here, right? Even for our profit margin example, where we typed in sum of profit divided by sum of sales, it's still doing that aggregation based on the segment that we have here. So summing them all by consumer, corporate, home office. 90, maybe 85% of the time, that's totally fine. And whatever you're grouping your measures by, whatever dimensions you're grouping them by, is the level of detail, right? Segue.
Charlie,
Yep. You cut out for a second, but it sounded like
freezing a little bit.
you're starting to say the screen is freezing. Okay.
It's freezing. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's better now. It's fine. But
Yeah.
now it's frozen again.
I just unshared it and reshared it again. But let's say that we wanted to calculate the percentage of our sales, percentage of our furniture sales that bookcases make up, right? So we know the sales that bookcases make up, 114,000. But if we wanted to create a calculated field or something where it was 114,000 divided by all of these, we wouldn't be able to get the sum, right? If we didn't have subcategory in there, we have the sum of furniture, 742,000. And with subcategory in there, we have 114,000. So we'd want to create a calculated field that says 114,000 divided by 742,000, right? That would give us the percentage of furniture sales that come from bookcases. But we can't get the sum of bookcases without our subcategory on there.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't get the sum of furniture with subcategory on there, right? We need kind of the combination of the two. We need 114,000 and we need 742,000 because that's the only way that we can calculate what percentage of our furniture sales come from bookcases. So the level of detail, the dimension, 2-dimension, category, subcategory is not matching up anymore. And again, this is, normally I like to use the example 99% of the time. You don't need to use this or whatever. This is actually a pretty common quandary in Tableau. Now, you could always make 2 separate views and just show bookcases on one and furniture on the other and make people do the mental math themselves. But we're better than that.
If you want to be really unpopular with
Exactly.
your executives.
Pull out the calculator and do it real time. So what level of detail calcs allow us to do is ignore what we are showing on the screen and group things in the background. So what I mean by that, let's just do an example and then I'll talk through how it works. So just like before, level detail calcs are calculated fields on steroids is how I like to describe them. But they're still just calculated fields. So we'll hit the arrow, we'll do create calculated field. Let me type this first and then let me walk you through it. So level of detail calcs are kind of denoted with this fixed keyword, just like if statements started with an if keyword. Level of detail calcs always start with a little curly bracket and fixed. And again, do not type in the curly bracket space fixed. Just type in fixed and then go down and hit enter. So it will populate that way. That always saves people a ton of heartache. So we are going to fix our level of detail at the level of category. So what Tableau is going to do is it is going to ignore everything that we have on our view. If we could have category, subcategory like we have now, which makes sense. We could have region and ship mode. We could have whatever we want on there, and it's going to ignore it and say, no matter what is shown, fix this level of detail to the level of category. Then you add in a little colon. And now that we've signified or denoted what the level of detail we want to fix our calculation to, then we just tell it what to calculate, sum of sales. And then we'll close the bracket. So it starts, again, welcome to coding. There's very annoying syntax that you have to follow. It will always start with a little curly bracket and end with the curly bracket. You always need the keyword fixed, and you always need what you want to fix it by with a colon and then an expression. The good news is, if you ever forget that, you can come over here and click on fixed, and it will tell you, it shows you, right, fixed, the dimension you want. You can add in multiple dimensions, colon, the aggregate detail. confused and aggregated using only specified dimensions. So it's ignoring what we have on here and just doing this. So we're going to call this category. Gosh, I never realized how hard it was to type when you can't see what you're typing. Category sales. And hit OK. Now, if we drag this over to text as well, we have that 742,000 number on every single row for furniture, right? Obviously for office supplies, it's 719. For technology, it's 836. And if we look in, actually, I'm not sure if they show calculated fields in the data set. No, it doesn't. Okay. Oh, subcategory on the rows. Now you should be able to cut category set. Bingo. Nice. So now it's completely ignoring the subcategory, right? Sum of sales isn't. That's a normal field. It's summing up based on the dimensions that we have up here, right? There's 114,000, 342,000, 91,000, 206,000. But our category sales is ignoring that subcategory and just saying for the category furniture, we have 742,000. For every, it doesn't matter what our next dimension is. We could have a million different dimensions on here, right? We could add in like region or something. It's pretty straightforward. We could add region in here too. And now we have 742,000 for bookcases, central, east, southwest, even though this top sum of sales is just for this level of detail. So now we have both numbers that we need on the same level of detail. We can now work with those at the same level as before. We don't need two different visualizations. So now we can just do a basic arithmetic calculated field. Same thing that we started with tonight. So create a new calculated field. We're going to do our sum of sales, right? Our sum of sales is just that 114,000 number, or 328,000 number, or 91,000 number, or 206,000 number, right? Sum of sales, right? What we have right here, divided by our new category sales number, which if you'll remember is already summed. We typed it in there, sum of sales, right? Wait, maybe I don't want. So is it just sales divided by category sales? Yep, my bad. And we're just going to call this percent of sales. Right, so we have our two, we have sales, we have category sales. Those are both being summed up here. We have them on the same level now, so we can work with them in the same way. So now we just type sales divided by category sales, just basic arithmetic. And if we hit OK here, again, we have a new data point. Let's just go ahead and drag that onto text as well. And I know I could format this as a table and make it look pretty. I'm just trying to save us some time. We know how to do that. So now we're the 0.15, 0.44, 0.12, 0.27. right? We know how to change those to percent. We've done it a couple times now. We hit right arrow, default properties, number format, percent. And voila, 15.48. And let's just check our math real quick. So 15.48 plus 44.27 plus 12.36 plus 27.89 equals 100. So now 100% of our furniture sales are accounted for. We know that bookcases make up 15% of them, chairs make up 44% of them, furnishings make up 12% of them, tables makes up 27% of them. It's 114,000 of the total 742,000, 328,000 of the total 742,000. Obviously, I've just been covering furniture for the first example, but that same holds true for office supplies and technology. Now, if I wanted to, like, obviously this is a really ugly table. I just wanted to show kind of everything that was going into the calculation on the level of detail that we were working with. But if I wanted to make this pretty, what I would probably do is change our sum of sales to a detail, change our category sales to a detail, and move our percent of sales up to like our columns. And maybe add percent of sales on the label or something, right? This is not a chart that we could have made with the data that we had provided, right? We had to create our own data set or our own data point. We had to show by the level of detail, what do we have total for furniture so that we could break down each one of these individually. Now, this is a super basic chart, right? This is something super basic to make, something super basic that someone would want to look at. Like, hey, chairs make up 44% of all of our furniture sales. Oh, only those dang fasteners, I always use them as an example, only make up 0.42% of all of our office supply sales. So on and so forth. But we couldn't have made it without it. Now, it's going to be hard for you guys to comprehend how difficult level of detail calculations actually are. It is extremely impressive that you guys have learned how to do this in only 4 nights of this class. I was lucky enough to go to the Tableau conference in Las Vegas probably 3 or 4 years into using Tableau. And almost every single speaking session is learn how to use the level of detail calculations, the truth about level of detail calculations. Here's everything they never taught you about level. They're a really, really robust concept. So I want you guys to all take a second and give yourselves a pat on the back for building your first level of detail calc 2 weeks after downloading Tableau. Now, let's also pause for a quick second here. I know we covered a lot tonight, but we've been working with the Superstore data for the 3 nights previous to this and are pretty familiar with the data points at this point. We have created, just tonight in these 2 hours alone, 1 paper highlight, 2 category sales, 3 days to ship, 4% of sales, 5 positive profit, 6 profit margin, 7 profit margin a different way. We've created 7 new data points in an already very robust data set just from using calculated fields and level of detail calculations. So as you work with different data sets that aren't as clean as this and want to make it your own, anyone can download Tableau and drag sales over there and show total sales, right? This is really where you start to set yourselves apart as data analysts, data visualization specialists, data scientists. Anything that you guys want to do is understanding how to munge and tweak and engineer new data points to work with. It is complicated. I know. That's why I wanted to get done. I'm almost pump up speech. Sorry. That's why I wanted to get done a little bit early tonight. Yes, question.
Charlie, this is Celeste. On the label, the percent labels on the bar charts, I missed that step. Can you show how you got to those numbers to be percentages?
Oh, yep. So for our percent of sales that we just created, you just click that drop down arrow.
Okay.
Default properties number format.
Okay.
and then change that to a
Okay.
percentage.
Okay.
Yep, and you can tweak that. I mean, no one ever needs 2 decimal places. I always like to clean it up a little bit.
Did you go to edge on it?
Nope. Percent of sales,
Right.
default properties, number format. Yep. Yep.
Well, I missed a step, and so I don't have a chart.
That's okay. Let me wrap up class in the next like 2 minutes, and then send people on their way, and we can. I'll pop over real quick. So, definitely save this if you haven't already. This will be a good frame of reference to look back on. I would even, instead of like night number 4, like we would typically call these, just so it's easier to find, I would almost call it like calculated fields. What do you say? Class examples. Something like that. Something that you can easily go through. You're like, oh, what night did we cover calculated fields? I can't remember. Let's just call it calculated fields so you can easily find it. Because I promise you're going to have to use them in your career, and they're difficult to figure out and remember. So might as well save some good examples out there. No need for the homework. No need to publish anything. No need to find another data set or your data set that you're working with and use any of these. No need to do any of that. Just spend some time, 5 to 10 minutes tops, going through the calculated fields listed in here. Click into a few. Find one that you think is interesting. Send me just the name. So if you're doing else, just send me, hey, Charlie, I found the else function. This is when you use it, or this is how it's used. I would want to use this for blah, 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 blah. It can be totally made up. Other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic, nice long weekend. Next week, we'll start bringing some of this together. And then week 4, we'll start building out our final project. So we're halfway home. Appreciate you guys sticking with me. Slack me if you need anything. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on Monday. Okay.
So this is somewhere in here, and this is right, and I have a quotation, which brings my percentage.
Oh, yeah. So let's open up percentage of sales and edit it. Yeah, just got to get rid of that sum. And that's my fault because I actually typed that in first and then I realized it as well. Divided by category sales. So get rid of category.
Take it out.
Yep. And then just category sales. Yep. Bingo. Now you drag percent of sales into your columns. Bingo. And then you can also drag percent of sales to your labels. Voila.
So why do I have this? This needs to be deleted.
I kept it in there just so when you hover, you can see the total sales that came in, the category sales that came in, and the percent of sales just at the detail. The percent is overshown.
So then this simple category should be.
No, because that's our sum of category sales. So that would be the 742,000 number.
Cool.
So that's saying for
Because I
this.
see I have 4 and you only have 2, that's why I'm asking.
Oh,
That's
Yep. So our total category is that number, total sales for the subcategory is that number, and then percent of sales is what we're showing.
so I didn't type in one correctly, that's why I.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
supposed to go and edit, but I always say rule of thumb, wait.
There you go. See where everything shakes out first. I think that's a good idea.
But I sure was thinking, it's Ed, it's Ed. My card expired. Last time I received a warning ticket.
Uh-oh.
It seems like a Thursday. So
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
And you said they just need to Slack you something about these pieces, right?
Yep. Correct.
all right, have a good weekend, everyone. And see you next week.
Yep. Have a good weekend. Perfect, Mary. The great call on the contains function. That's a go-to for messy data.
Oh, man, yeah.
We did a few years back, we had a partnership with Home Depot, and we were trying to calculate how many of our customers used it. But when they enter in suppliers, it's just an open text field. So I think I found it was something crazy, like 74 different instances of how people had typed Home Depot.
Yep.
Home Depot, 2 words, Home Depot, 1 word, capital Home, lowercase Depot, capital both, the Home Depot, capital. Like, it was a crazy contained statement to try to like group all of those together and pull them in.
Yeah, that's what, when I said what I did about case, that's my thought is I know in Snowflake, we can use a command to create a field where we standardize case, right?
Yeah.
All the letters in the field lowercase.